All right, let's talk about classes and objects. Now, before you get started on this video, it's highly recommended that you guys get familiar with functions before doing this, because functions are very important for classes. Now, I'm not saying you have to be an expert on it, but it's really good to just go back to my video called user-defined functions so that you can familiarize yourself with what we're going to be doing here. Because when it comes to classes, you are 100% always going to be using functions. So I want you guys to get familiar with that before you start. So if you're not familiar with user-defined functions, go back and watch that video. I'll link it in the description and then come back to this one. For everybody else, let's get started with classes and objects. So classes act as blueprints for objects. And objects are basically things that you, the programmer, create, and they consist of attributes and methods. They mimic real world objects such as cats, maybe a chair, a car, anything you can think of basically. Attributes are variables that you declare or assign to an object. So let's go back to my example. Let's say we have an object of the cat class. Well, what kind of attributes do cats have? Well, they might have a name, they have an age, maybe they have a color, or maybe they have, health status. Like maybe they have rabies, maybe the cat is healthy, stuff like that. Just anything that you can think of pertaining to cats, that would be assigned to the attribute variables. Objects also have methods, which are user-defined functions that allow the object to interact and do things. Going back to our cat example, what kind of methods would a cat have? What kind of things do cats do? What actions do they have? Well, they can jump pretty high. They can meow. That's like the biggest, most iconic one. They eat, they sleep, and they drink just like us. So those are examples of methods that a cat object would have. And those are user defined functions. That's why I wanted you guys to get familiar with functions, because when it comes to classes, you're definitely going to give them methods, and methods are basically just user defined functions, and you'll see why. So let's get to programming. Let's create a class of cats. Let's just, keep going with our example here. So in order to do that, you just type in the word class, all lowercase. And then this is very important. Whenever you're naming a class, you always have a capital letter as the first letter. So in this case, the C in cat will be capitalized, followed by a set of curly brackets. And remember, this is very important. Classes are statements. And if you remember all the way back to the CS1, that every statement ends in a semicolon. So this is the syntax for a class. So it's literally just the word class, all lowercase, and then the name of the class with a capital letter starting with it, and then curly brackets, and then semicolon. Now, for now, we're going to use a public access modifier, and it's okay if you don't know what this means yet. We haven't gotten there yet, but for now, just add public to the inside of the class brackets, and then we're going to be working inside of the public access modifier. So we have a class called cat, right? So let's go back to what I said earlier. Let's start off with the attributes. Attributes are variables that you declare or assign to an object. So what attributes did we talk about? We said that they might have a name, so we'll just have string name. Maybe they have a color, so we'll do string color. They have an age, so we'll just do int age. That's pretty easy. And then let's add a new one, just one more for practice. We'll do is internet famous, a Boolean value, to check whether or not they are famous on the internet, because cats are pretty famous. So we just created a class called cat, which has the attributes string name, string color, integer age, and a Boolean value to determine whether or not they are famous. These are the attributes. So before we get into the methods, let's just hop back into our main function, right? So how do we use the class that we just created here? Well, in the same way that you declare a variable, let's say I want to make an integer, right? I would just do integer, and then I name it whatever I want. We'll just say number, and then we assign that a value, like 1, or maybe we don't. Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. You already know this, right? Classes are actually not that different. But instead of saying integer, now we say cat, because that is the name of the class that we created. And then we do whatever we want as the name. In the same way we did int number, we'll do cat, and let's just say cat1. So we just created a cat, but we didn't assign it anything yet, right? In the same way, this is no different than me doing int number, right? It's kind of like the same principle. You know this to be an integer named number with no value. This is a cat object of the cat class with no values right now. Right now, we don't know the name, we don't know the color, we don't know the age, and we don't know whether or not it's internet famous yet. So how do we assign those values? Well, we go into a new line and then we do cat1 dot the variable that we want to assign, and then we can assign it a name. So let's just name this cat Whiskers. So now we have our cat1 and we assigned this name to Whiskers. And we can do the same thing for color, age, and the internet famous value. So I'm going to pause for a second and let you guys try to figure out the syntax and try to guess what I'm about to type when it comes to assigning the color, age, and whether or not they're internet famous. And just to give you guys a hint, it's very, very similar to what's going on in line 24 here. All right, so let's assign these values. So do cat1 dot color to assign the color, and then we could just call it, maybe we'll make it a black cat. Cat1 dot age, and then we'll make this cat 6 years old. And then for whether or not he's internet famous, a black cat named Whiskers is kind of boring, so he's not getting very much traction on TikTok. We'll set cat1 dot is internet famous equal to false. He's not really that famous. So now we have a cat. We have a cat called cat1 of the cat class whose name is Whiskers. He is black. He's 6 years old and he's not famous. How do we show these attributes? Well, we can see out directly. So let's just see out this cat's name is. And if we want to get the cat name, we simply just type in cat1.name. This cat name is cat1.name, and then we'll just do his fur is, and then we'll do cat1.color. Then we can say he is cat1.age, years old. And then he's not internet famous, but we can just say, So if you remember Boolean values when they're false or true, it's 0 or 1. I'm trying to think of a way to show that in English. Let's do one famous, 0 not famous, and then we'll just put like an arrow here. And then we'll just see out the Boolean value for cat1. Now this is a this is a really long line, but this will do the trick. And we'll go over this in a second just now. So we're see out the attributes. This cat's name is cat1.name. His fur is cat1.color. He is cat1.age, years old. And then we check whether or not he's famous. So let's just try to read this. Let's try to predict the output, right? So cat1.name is Whiskers. So this cat's name is Whiskers. Cat1.color is, we set that to black. So his fur is black. Cat1.age is 6. So he is 6 years old. And is internet famous is set equal to false. So for 1 famous or 0 not famous, we will get 0. Let's run this code and see if we did that correctly. This cat's name is Whiskers. His fur is black. He is 6 years old. 1 for famous, 0 for not famous, 0. Okay, so he's not famous. So basically, yeah, that's everything I covered up to attributes here. But what about methods? Methods are user-defined functions that allow the object to do things. So how do we create a method for this cat class? Well, in order to do that, we're basically just creating functions. So let's go back to my example in the beginning of the video. What did we say cats can do? We said cats can eat, sleep, and drink just like us humans, but they can also jump and they can meow. So let's create a bunch of void functions for all of those. So we'll have an eat function. And then let's just create a couple more. So we have an eat function, we'll have a drink function, we'll have a sleep function, and we'll have a meow function. I think that's enough. No need for jumping. So we have eat. I don't know why I deleted that. Sleep, drink, and meow. And this is why I said I want you guys to get comfortable with functions, because if you didn't, then this might be a little bit confusing. But if you're here anyway, you're trying to brute force it, I'll just give you guys a quick review. The void means that we're not returning a value in particular. This is just the name of the function. And inside of the curly brackets, we're executing a block of code. So whenever we call eat, it's going to execute whatever we put in here. So let's just put out a cout. This cat is eating. And we pretty much do similar things for the rest of them, because these are just simple functions that allow the cat to do stuff. So for the sleep method, this cat is sleeping. For the drink method, this cat is drinking. And then for the meow, let's change it a little bit. Let's just say meow in all capital letters. He's like screaming. All right, so how do we get, let's say we want to get our cat Whiskers to meow, to drink, to eat, and sleep. How do we do that? So let's just go over here in our main function. And the same way we assign values is kind of similar to how we call in the methods. Let's pick the cat that we want. In this case, we want cat1, which is Whiskers. And then we call the function. So we want cat1 to meow. So we call in the meow function. And in the same way we call in functions in our main, like how I did in the video previous, link is in the description, it's kind of similar to how we call in function for objects. We put in the object name, dot, and then the function name. So now when we call this function, we should get the meow here. But I want to put a new line character. All right, let's run this. This cat's name is Whiskers. His fur is black. He is 6 years old and not famous. Meow. All right, so this function works as intended. When we called the meow function for Whiskers, he meowed. Let's use the name variable so that we know exactly which cat is meowing. Because in a second, I'm going to show you guys how to create multiple objects of the same class and how that would all work. So let's edit our meow function for a second to include the name. So we'll just do name, and then we'll follow that up with a set of colons instead of a new line here. I think that's fine, yeah. So now instead of just meow, we'll know that it's Whiskers meowing. So let's just run this again. All right. Forgot to add the new line back in, but you guys get the point here. We know that Whiskers is meowing now. And let's do that with all the other ones as well. This isn't necessary, but I just want to show you guys for demonstrative purposes so that you guys can kind of visualize what's going on behind the scenes so that it's not all abstract to you guys. And then instead of adding a new line for there, we'll just add a new line here. Yeah, that'll do the trick. And then we'll add new lines to the end of every string here. Just formatting it, making it look nice and neat for you guys. You know I love y'all. All right. So let's use all the functions, because all we did was meow, but he's still got to eat, drink, and sleep, right? So let's have Whiskers eat, by calling the eat function, just like this. Let's have them drink. I want you guys to predict what I'm going to put here. Yep. Drink function. And if we want to have them finally go to sleep after a long day of meowing, eating, and drinking, we're going to call in the sleep function. So let's run this code and let's see what happens. Let's try to predict. So we have our cat named Whiskers. He is black and he's 6 years old. We're printing out his attributes and we're calling the meow, eat, sleep, drink function. Basically utilizing all the tools that we have here in the class. So let's run this. This cat's name is Whiskers. His fur is black. He is 6 years old. He's not famous. Whiskers, meow. Whiskers, this cat is eating. Whiskers, this cat is drinking. Whiskers, this cat is sleeping. All right, so our methods here are the eat, sleep, and drink, and our attributes here are the name, color, age, and internet famous values. So we basically just created a class called cat. So, but like, why do we do this? What is the whole point of doing this? Why are classes useful? And why is it so important in object-oriented programming? Well, the reason is because let's say we want to reuse this whole like block of code here. Instead of writing, attributes and methods for each and every single cat in the world, we can just use this class cat. Remember when I said classes act as blueprints? This is a blueprint for every single cat. Every single breed of cat can do this. Every single breed of cat may have a name, they have a color, they have an age, and they can be internet famous. It wouldn't make sense to just make a bunch of cats into our main function, like string cat Whiskers. Like it's gonna be messy. So let's say I want to make a new cat. Instead of creating a whole new set of variables and a whole new set of like functions for that one specific cat, we can just use the blueprint that we made up here. So the same way we did cat 1, we're gonna make a new one. So let's just say we have a cat called cat 2 of the cat class. And then let's name this one, we'll call her Zoe. And then we also want to give it a color. We'll say calico. If you guys are cat experts, you know that's like the white, brown, and black ones. They're usually mostly female, but I'm getting off track here. Let's move on. We'll give her an age. We'll say she is 11 years old. And then internet famous. Calicos, they're pretty cute. So we'll make her internet famous. People love Zoe. So we'll set that equal to true. Now, and that's basically all there is to it. Remember what took us like 10 minutes, getting the class set up and getting the first cat named Whiskers going? Well, whenever we want to create a new cat, it's as simple as that. We just made a new cat named Zoe, that is a calico, with 11 years on her, and she is internet famous. This is why classes are important, because it allows us to create new objects very easily, because now we have a blueprint. Think of it as like a survival game progression. Like in Minecraft, getting your first furnace started is kind of hard, right? Because you have to make a pickaxe, you have to make some stone, and then you have to put all the stone together to make a furnace. But once you get that furnace going, I mean, you have iron, you're just kind of automating like the whole Stone Age process. That's kind of what classes are, right? Once you get a class going, well, then the rest is pretty easy. If I wanted to make another cat, I can do that. So we'll just make cat 3. We'll do cat3.name. We'll call this one Billy. Cat3.color. We'll make this one white. Cat3.age. We'll say let's get a kitten. Like 3, right? That's like kitten age. Cat3 is internet famous. A lot of kittens are internet famous, so we'll just set that equal to true. And boom, we got another cat. So let's make Zoe a really sleepy girl, and let's make Billy a really like hungry fat cat, because we all know cats like to eat. If we want Zoe to sleep and we want Billy to eat, we just call in the eat and sleep functions for both, respectively. So Zoe will be sleeping, so we'll just do cat2.sleep, call in that function, and then we'll do cat3 for Billy.eat, because Billy is the fat one. He likes to eat a lot. And as you can guess, this will have Zoe sleeping and this will have Billy eating. So let's run this code. Okay, there we go. That was a little weird. So we have all the whisker stuff here that we did before, but this is the new stuff that we just added in. So Zoe, this cat is sleeping, and for Billy, this cat is eating. So yeah, those are basically classes. The class act as the blueprint. The attributes are variables assigned to the object. And the methods are the actions that the object can take. And the objects are to be used in the main function here. So I want you guys to practice using classes. For an example, I want you guys, after you're done watching this video, make a class called dog and try to think about what dogs can do. Maybe they eat, sleep, and drink like cats, but they don't meow, they bark instead. So create a class of the dog, create a class named dog, and then assign it some attributes and give it the functions like I did here. And then try to print out those attributes after creating a dog in the same way I did here. And that's about it. And I'll see you guys when we talk about constructors.